Okay, good morning everybody and welcome to this new webinar with us today. We are the ITSM, which is a regional organization for IT service management professionals around the region. And in partnership with Quintica company, we are presenting today a webinar on Predictive Intelligence, modernizing ITSM with AI. And this webinar is presented by Miss Preethi Premnath from Quintica, and she will present herself and the topic now. So if you have any questions during the webinar, please you can write to the chat area, or you can contact the speaker or send to us directly after the webinar if you are listening to the recording. And this recording will be available on our YouTube channel just after it's finished. Thank you. So please start.
Thank you, Rania. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you all for joining in for yet another session from the series by the Quintica group. So today we would look at how we could leverage next generation technologies such as machine learning, artificial intelligence in simplifying work in the IT service management space. So without further ado, I start my session now. I guess most of you all would agree that artificial intelligence is no match to natural stupidity, but I guess to a large extent it does help. A quick introduction about me. I'm Preethi Premnath. I function as a solution consulting manager at Quintica. I've been in the ITSM space for the past 15 years and have worked across a varied set of tools and platforms, right from the BMC Remedy until a ServiceNow, which I currently seem to pursue still. I've been engaged on ServiceNow since the Berlin release, so it's been a real long time that I've been, really looking at how the platform has evolved. My experience has primarily been in various domains across the globe, and this is primarily on retail, banking, and currently it is in the oil and gas industry. I'm also an enterprise architect and then have been a trusted advisor for various ServiceNow engagements across the globe. I've led one of the major digital transformation engagement in the MEA region, and proudly would like to say I'm a STEM advocate with vivid interest in a lot of new generation technologies. As you may know, with the advent of Industry 4.0, I think every enterprise in the world would like to ride the wave of digital transformation. But are they really prepared for that? If you look at it from the slide that I shared, these are essentially the pillars of digital transformation. First being the data, because it is only with data that you can have an increased transparency and make insightful decisions. Probably, I guess you can call data is the new oil. Then comes culture. So even for all this digital transformation in place, are people really having the right mindset? Are they really agile, ready to adopt? Because that is the only way you can thrive in this internet era. And lastly, you need to have the right technology stack to complement what you really want to achieve in the world of digital transformation. But having said all of this, the age-old issues still persist in the modern IT services. And this again owing to various factors, a few of which I have actually jotted down here, primarily reduced budgets and financial pressures, the cost of the agent's time being spent on mundane repetitive activities, the recruitment of IT staff, which is probably a high turnover, increasing expectation from employees. I mean, this, I think, is probably the hardest thing which the IT industry or the support faculty faces, because apparently they would want to have a consumerized experience. And many a times when they come into the IT world, they find it really difficult to have that kind of an experience. And above all that, you have your CIO putting in priorities for digital transformation. This is still something at a very macro level in an enterprise. But if we have to look at something at the micro level, and which again today, as my topic states, in the IT service management space, there are various issues that you may see across personas. So as an end user, even today, after having a very efficient or robust ITSM platform, be it any of it, Remedy or ServiceNow or any other platform, the end users still have an issue or a problem in knowing, should I raise an incident or should I raise a request? This is still a confusion. And even if they do so, if they have to raise an incident, they may not know which category should I map this. They may be unaware. And based on the maturity of the enterprise, you may have varied categories or varied sectors against which they could really raise an issue. So this still seems to be a problem. From an agent perspective, once an incident has been raised, they still find it a little difficult to know what exactly should be a resolution. And again, has these been repeated earlier in the past? This is always an issue. And above all, to support such a heavy load of incoming incidents, they may need to onboard many other IT support agents as well. Then the trouble comes in as to how these agents can be quickly onboarded, how soon can they familiarize with the platform. These issues still persist. And then if we move on to the service owners currently seem to be engaged only at the time when a system has to be in place or when a process has to be implemented or when a service has to be introduced. But later, as the company matures, as the users start using the platform, do they have a visibility of how exactly their service is performing? Is it really meeting the needs of the users? I guess not. So these are still challenges that are faced, I think, probably in every enterprise, irrespective of how mature they are. Hence, what do we see as the need of the hour? Well, it looks like we may need to augment human capability with some sort of intelligence. And this is where I would like to bring you to my topic, predictive intelligence. Predictive intelligence offered by ServiceNow as a native capability where we are literally leveraging machine learning on the platform. Predictive intelligence may be viewed as an assisted intelligence, and this essentially is coming out from the very data set that is available on your platform. So, as mentioned earlier, it is a platform capability that assists the IT agents to work to simplify their work with the knowledge which can help in prediction. So who doesn't like prediction? Meaning, I think, be it even today, even when we use our normal WhatsApp or anything, we do have prediction. It suggests us what should be your next phrase. So this is something that even the IT agents or the IT world would like to look into. So why not we adopt this in ITSM? What are the benefits of having predictive intelligence on ServiceNow? Well, it is an inherent capability, and hence you don't have to look into any other technology to get this augmented into the platform. The other benefit is that it doesn't rely on data scientists. So thus, yes, it is through the knowledge of data science that we have this solution in place, but you don't really have to rely on them to get this onto your platform to have a real working solution, and you get real time insights. And above all, the turnaround time. It's a real quick turnaround time. The training essentially happens in hours, and you can see real time results right as you use the platform. So, what are the various frameworks supported through predictive intelligence on ServiceNow? I think for people who are familiar with machine learning, they would be able to relate to it much easier. But else not, ServiceNow has simplified it in a very nice way, having these available as predefined templates for the various algorithms that you would find otherwise on machine learning. So one of the first ones that I would like to talk about is natural language understanding, NLU. I think this would be one of the buzzwords that you hear a lot these days. And this is essentially of trying to understand what the end user's intent is. And very soon, towards I think, the later half of my presentation, I would show you certain use cases where this is actually adopted. So based on certain phrase that an end user applies, that I have an issue with my email, oh, my mailbox is broken, the system is able to identify and translate it to the required action and then have it routed to the agent for the next steps. And this is what natural language understanding NLU framework works for. Classification, as the name goes, it really helps the agent to auto-populate certain relevant prerequisites, such as for an incident, the categorization or the prioritization, based on the historical data that is present in the instance. So this way, the agent is saved with a lot of time of not really knowing under which category should this fall, what should be the priority. So based on the classification framework, it is readily done and available for the next steps for the agent. Similarity framework, as the phrase goes, this essentially looks up at all other similar cases, incidents, tickets on the instance and assists the agent in providing the right kind of resolution, the right kind of linkages, whether now this needs to be promoted to a major incident, should this be linked to a change request. So it really gives recommendations on the fly to the agent and essentially helps again from the mundane activities they would otherwise need to follow, in short, ensuring that the customer is satisfied at the end. The next one, the clustering framework, which is not really adopted much, but of major use to the platform administrators or even to the service owners, is to identify automation opportunities, or rather to even do a gap analysis. So this framework essentially would allow you to see where exactly are the gaps, what is that you could introduce in terms of automation or orchestration, so that such repetitive activities can be automated and saves a lot of time. These are essentially formed in the form of clusters and hence the name clustering framework. The last that has been introduced in Paris is the regression framework. And this essentially helps you to predict estimated value. It could be a number, it could be a range. And a probable use case for this could be to understand the MTTR, or what is the, I think the resolution time. Things like that can be done using the regression framework. So these are essentially what ServiceNow provides, and they all come with predefined templates, which can be readily put to use for your daily processes or the ITSM processes on the instance. Now let's take a look at how exactly does this training process happen. So usually in machine learning, the prerequisite is that you need data. So data is a prime factor here. And data, you need really cleansed and validated data. Hence, the option to even look at predictive intelligence in an enterprise or for your customer essentially relies on how mature the customer has been. How is the customer's data set? Is it clean? Is it validated? And do you have quite a good amount to really get started with? From our experience with a few of our implementations, we've seen at least close to 3,000 odd records is a good start to look at. And also you should have some relevant, consistency in the data that you have. So once the data has been identified in the customer's instance, this is then you can provide the various criteria on how to really refine the data set that you're looking at. Once the criteria has been defined, and this is essentially provided, as I mentioned earlier, through solution templates. And these solution templates already have pre-selected tables, fields, which you can obviously customize to your customer requirements, add additional fields if required, and based on which you get the outcome, which is your raw data set. This raw data set is then transported to a training server, which again essentially again lies within the same data center where your instance is hosted, and it is securely trained. And again, I think this is something which almost every customer has in mind: is my data secure? Yes, it is secure, and in fact, it is a unique profile created for yourself. So any model that comes as an outcome from this training is unique to your customer and unique to that data which is hosted within the instance. So once this model is available, they can be further retrained to achieve a good accuracy and precision. To our implementations that we have done recently, we have seen that even if you're able to achieve close to a 75% to 80% accuracy, it is good enough for you to get started. Majorly, the training can happen at a frequency that you set. But what could be ideal is that if you look at training your instance, probably or the data, for probably twice a month. That is something which we have seen seems to work and has been a success for most of our clients. So when we looked at the initial challenges for an end user, for an agent, and a service owner, with these frameworks in place and with predictive intelligence, we have found solutions. And these, if you look at it for the initial categorization issue, which the end user have, we can really use the classification framework, and that will essentially classify the end user's incidents to the right categories. Also, with NLU, the end user need not use any kind of IT jargons, but use plain, simple English or text, and that is converted into the relevant item. It can even contribute to the fact that if a person says that I want a laptop, through NLU, it will readily identify it to be a request and create a service request with the catalog item as laptop. As an agent, through the agent workspace, the similarity framework can be leveraged. They can easily identify similar incidents, look at the resolutions that have been provided in the past, and literally reroute, meaning resolve the incident at the earliest for the customer. For a service owner, they get a complete transparency on how their service performance is, what is that they can best do to optimize that service, and look at the next steps. Now, having said all of this, any technology or solution is successful provided they are adopted. So just getting in machine learning or artificial intelligence or probably what RPA in an enterprise really doesn't help. Yes, for a few days, you can claim that you have these technologies, but then are they really being used? So the success factor of any implementation relies on the adoption. And for an adoption, what is really relevant is the use cases. So what use cases you define? What are the quick wins that you can identify? And what is that people can readily adopt to? So here are a few success use cases that we have tried and tested and has been successful with few of our premier clients in the region. So to begin with, I would first like to walk you through one of the use cases, which is self-service and self-help. I hope I'm audible, Rania.
Yes, it's fine. Please continue.
Okay. Um, to start with, so self-service and self-help. Where do you find such kind of use cases? So many a times what happens is users are always prone to call up the service desk, use the call option because they get immediate assistance. But then how do we deflect them? How do we somehow do the shift left, move them onto self-service, self-help? Well, this is one of the options that we did see in one of our customers, that by using artificial intelligence, primarily the classification framework and the NLU framework. So if you look at it, the example here, new incident logging. So they're planning to raise an incident. And what the user has to give is simply a text, as in, I'm not able to receive an email and it is imperative that I get this working today. It is just these two lines that we require the end user to enter. Once this is done, we could have the AI or the predictive intelligence on the platform to kick in. Now, how is this done? So for each of the models that we have trained, we are able to even get scriptable APIs for each of these. So this can eventually be called through a business rule, and the prediction API kicks in, and based on the model, based on the framework that we have selected, and here it is the classification framework, it would look at the content that has come through. First, it would apply the NLU, which is the natural language understanding. It will look at the very keywords, that is the email, imperative. Based on that, it is able to do a prediction that this particular issue seems to be an incident. It has to be raised for a category as email. And based on imperative synonyms of these sort, we know that it has to be a priority one incident. So if you look at it, it could easily classify the incident and also know the intent of the user, and an incident is created readily. Because of this, what has happened? We were able to empower the user. So we have empowered self-service and we were able to deflect calls. Now, where exactly can you see the applications of such use cases? This could be on the self-service portal, the end user portal, and also we've seen this to be a very good conversation item on the virtual agent. So on your chatbot, if a user comes in and just types this text, it can readily identify based on the content and do the classification necessary and create an incident. So you've literally saved the time of the agent as well as the end user for not having to wait on long queues and get an incident created. This was one of the use cases that we had implemented. Another use case is a very, very valid one. And this, to a large extent, has enabled our IT support agents across customers. Because many a times what happens is, you've seen it, it's always a firefighting arena where the IT support agents have to answer to tons of calls, incidents, issues, and many a times you have customers grieving that they never got the right kind of support. Now with the agent workspace, this is yet another capability on the ServiceNow platform, especially in the ITSM side of things. With the agent workspace, you can see that the IT agents can readily look up similar incidents, similar cases, resolutions that have been provided, and help the end users. So if I can quickly show you a small snippet of how this happens. So if you look at it, the agent has received an incident. It is already classified based on the classification framework. So they need not have to look at the description or not. They have seen that it's already classified and gone to the relevant assignment group and the assigned agent. Apparently, based on the similarity framework, it is seen that an incident in the past had a change that was raised on similar grounds. So you can see from the agent assist, a recommended change pops up, and it also provokes the agent to go ahead and link it to this particular incident. So based on this, the agent is recommended and he knows his next action. So he goes ahead and clicks on linked change. Once he does this, he can put in the relevant comments and readily have this incident as a child to the change. This otherwise would have been skipped. The other option, you can see that there has been similar high impact incidents and helps to propose a major incident. Many organizations, we have seen that major incident is implemented, but then hardly used. So this way we can also get the adoption for such processes. Additionally, you can also see that relevant articles are recommended. So this way, even the agent knows what needs to be done. And this is through the agent assist. They can look at open incidents, they can look at resolutions and give the next directive actions. This way, you have a satisfied customer in the end, and also you take out the stress from the agents. So this is majorly on the agent workspace where we have seen a lot of success of having the similarity framework. The next use case that I would like to bring about is on for the service owners. So something how we could get continual service improvements. How can we leverage PI to produce us results or insights that can aid in continual service improvement? So let's look at an example here. The use case that we defined was for SLA optimization. I think this is a major headache in many enterprises where they are never able to define what should be the right SLAs, because again, it is influenced by many factors. So what we had done was that we had leveraged the regression framework here to help us in identifying what should be the ideal SLA or the ideal estimated resolution time for an incident of a similar nature. Based on this, we were able to provide an insight to the service owners, and they were able to optimize the SLAs and essentially see to it that the customers are getting what they need. So this is an example what we have done where based on the issue title and description, before submission of the incident, the user is given a heads up that based on our previous engagements on such kind of cases, this has been your estimated time to resolve. So you should be prepared to wait for so long. So this way, even the end user gets a heads up and they don't keep bothering the IT support agents. The same use case can be applied in various other workspaces as well, probably on the process optimization side, the skills requirement side. So you have various new workspaces that have been introduced in Paris and even in Rome that can leverage such kind of machine learning capabilities. Lastly, the use case that I would like to quote about is primarily on how we could leverage predictive intelligence to look at opportunities for automation. So, not every activity can be automated. Where would we look at automation use cases? Where there are mundane activities and where we can save a lot of cost. So, this is how, through the clustering framework available through the predictive intelligence capability on the platform, we were able to look up on the various incidents that have been logged in the platform and arrive at certain clusters. So if you see that there is something known as a cluster size and cluster quality. So based on those criteria that we defined, we were able to identify that password reset, the legacy old problem, still seems to be a problem in the modern age. So this, if you look at it based on the cluster, like once I click on the cluster, these are the details that I get regarding the cluster. These relate to the various incidents that have been logged for this issue. So when we look at it, we see the amount of time that has been spent by the agents to resolve such issues, and that this is a common problem. So why not we look at an option where we could introduce orchestration for password reset? Similarly, we could identify other automation use cases. So for the client that we have worked, we saw there was something on their remote desktop, VDI issues, etc. You can go on. So the clustering framework is essentially applicable to probably platform admins or people who are more on the development side of things, where they can strategize what could be the possible avenues for automation. This way, the benefit that we achieve is obviously reduced cost and minimal inaccuracies. So human intervention is really minimal in these cases once you introduce automation. Clustering framework can also be used to do gap analysis, as I mentioned earlier. So if you look at the incidents that have been logged, many a times you would see that such incidents could be easily deflected if we have relevant knowledge articles. So if a user has to come to your portal and they seem to say that they have an issue, we can readily suggest them a knowledge article. And probably by just a single read, they are able to resolve the issue by themselves. So this is also another avenue where you can identify where exactly are you missing in terms of having knowledge articles for self-help. So these are a few use cases which we have seen has ensured success in most of our customers. And essentially, these were quick wins that we could look at in getting predictive intelligence adopted on the platform. Having said all of this, as I say, meaning predictive intelligence is a very good capability that you can, literally take an advantage on the ServiceNow platform, but for which there are certain prerequisites, as I mentioned earlier, data. So data is just like garbage in, garbage out. So unless you have clean, validated data, and again, based on the various constraint of how your platform or the instance has been set up, you need a valid set of data to be trained. Also, it depends on the maturity of the organization. So if the organization is in their very initial stage of having an ITSM practice in place, I wouldn't recommend it to be so. Rather, you may need to look at a period of a year or two to get predictive intelligence on the board. And above all, it also depends on the culture of the organization. So if you see that there is an agility in the organization is ready to look at the next generation technologies, then yes, this is a suitable candidate. Today, as I showcased to you, is primarily on the IT service management space. But the same can also be implied for the various other domains available on the platform. This is a very valid application in the HR service delivery side. On the customer service management side, you can have n number of use cases. And with the new features that have been brought in through the Rome release, you can also have it custom for the various applications that you plan to build on the platform. So With this note, I would like to conclude my session and would like to state a quote. I think artificial intelligence, as Stephen Hawking said, is probably one of the greatest things that mankind has ever seen and could also be one of the worst things that it can ever witness. But then, if AI is done wisely and adopted effectively, it can deliver better, faster, and scalable IT. So that's about it, folks. And thank you again. So if we have any questions, I'm ready to take on it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Preethi, so much for the presentation. And please, the audience, if anybody has any questions, please you can feel free to send to the chat area. Um, waiting for questions from the audience. Let's talk a bit about modernization of IT service management systems with AI. So, Preethi, it's a really very important topic and trending very well. So, I mean, all tools now claim to be intelligent and claim to be artificial intelligence supporting, and even more IoT and beyond all of that. So, what do you think that distinguishes your tool from other tools related to this area? Because I think it's trending, so everybody claims it. So what's the distinction for your tool?
Yes. Well, as I said before, maybe I can just go on to that particular slide again. Having this capability on ServiceNow, it is not something, I mean, I've seen in the past, before even predictive intelligence could come into, I think, the era. Many a times, meaning AI, artificial intelligence has been there for long. It is only that nowadays you have various technologies that can support artificial intelligence. It's been there. Machine learning has also been in the past. I think this is an area which was primarily on the data science side of things. And I think the statisticians are the best to claim that. But what has happened is all during all that period, customers had to rely on a different solution. They had to have another platform where machine learning can be introduced or implemented. And then I think the hurdle that most of them were faced with was how do they transport this data into the other system. They need to literally have this exported into the other solution, have it trained, and then have it back again. Now, this is the key differentiator with ServiceNow. If you look at it, there isn't any maintenance overhead or anything that you need to be worried about the training algorithm. This is completely taken care by ServiceNow. It is only I think the only hurdle, or rather the overhead that the customer would have, is to prepare their data. And that is a cumbersome task, I must say. You need to have validated data, but that
Yes.
is the only task that they need to ensure on the instance. So this is the major advantage of having predictive intelligence embedded within the platform. It's an in-platform capability, and this can be not just used in ITSM space. It can be used on any solution that we build on this platform. And that is the major advantage, I would say. And this primarily because ServiceNow has done a lot of acquisitions over the period. I think with DX Continuum and various other products that they have acquired, they have been able to bring in, or rather, beat their own competition, I would say, and try to bring the best possible capability on the platform. And what is even more advantageous here is that it can be readily used by the users. So you don't need to have a data science degree to actually understand. It is really kept to that simple configuration levels.
Yes, great. And truly, yes, data analysis is the core behind any artificial intelligence engine you can claim. And truly also that data validity, data cleanliness is key to successful use, because as you know, garbage in, garbage out. So it's a responsibility of the user or of the organization to prepare correct and clean data, because this really can be very critical for the correctness of the guidance you can get from the analysis. You agree?
Exactly.
Yes.
That's right. And also, Rania, maybe I can just add in another thing. Now,
Yeah.
whatever you do with this predictive intelligence, it doesn't really override manual intervention. So, one of the use cases, maybe if I can speak about, especially with the incident logging. This
Yes.
again, as I mentioned, it's a classification framework. And this classification framework, obviously, the accuracy lies in your historical data. But
Yeah.
many a times we should understand there is always a variance. There is always a small, area to error, right?
Yeah.
So when that happens, what happens is the system is also logging whether this prediction was accurate or not. And it
Yes.
is also possible for us to tailor the solution that if you want to override, you can still override. So it
Yeah.
is not set in stone. So even if it now probably classifies to something else because the historical data says so, you still have the option to override it. But the
Yes.
prediction is contained elsewhere. And based on that, when the model again retrains, probably in the next 2 months or so, it is able to identify this drift and make the relevant correction. So
Yes.
that is also done by this capability.
Yes. I think yes, human intelligence always will superseding over the artificial
Yes.
intelligence, and you need to review, you need to check if anything has gone mistakenly with the tool. You need to correct. Um, okay, so I think we don't have any more questions from the audience, and
Okay.
if you like to add any other point, you can do.
Yes, yeah, meaning just that I would like to say is again, when we try to look at, again, I just gave a very high level on the various use cases that you can apply, but then again, these has ensured success. In fact, now for one of our premier customers in the oil and gas industry, we have seen that at least I think 50% or rather 60% of it has gone through the classification framework for incident creation. So
Yeah.
ideally, the predictions, meaning again, as I told you before, Rania,
Yeah.
the platform administrators, they usually go back and look at the prediction accuracy, how after
Yes.
each retraining, what is the accuracy that has come in. And based on that, I see a majority of the incidents have worked correctly and the accuracy has just increased over a period of time. So the more data you get in, the more you are able to actually have the accuracy set. So
Yeah.
that is something, again, another key takeaway that we have
Yes.
seen from few of our implementations.
Yes, right, right. And you mentioned the oil and the gas industry, but I think it's applicable to all sectors, all industry
Yes, yes, it
sectors.
is applicable to all sectors. Yes, exactly. And as I said before, the this is an inherent, it's a native capability on the platform. So
Yeah.
whatever you build, meaning the solutions on the platform, either through the app engine or through any other modules that ServiceNow provides,
Yeah.
this capability can be introduced,
It's
and you
integratable with
can
other
see the
modules. Yeah.
benefits.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it's
Great, great.
seamlessly integrated. Yes.
I want to ask you if a company hasn't been paying attention to collecting past data, previous historical data, and you don't have this initial data set to start use data analysis and artificial intelligence and machine learning and so on. So the initial data set, how this is created for starting to use this functionality or this feature of the system.
Well, what essentially we have seen is there have been customers who were keen to go ahead with such technologies, but then,
Yeah.
as you rightly said, they never had the right data set. So, what happened to be the case was that the service desk, meaning they are the primary set of people, right, who would receive calls, who would receive
Yeah.
emails. So they were asked to create a curated data set, and this data set could then be easily imported into the system. So many a times it is also that you are able to extrapolate the data and try to bring in a relevant data set into the platform. So to start with, as I mentioned, a minimal of at least 3K records is required to get a relevant accuracy. So they had to, meaning this is not really advisable, but when they are keen to bring in such, intelligence onto the platform, this is an alternate way that they can approach.
Yeah. Okay. So we need to wait for some time to collect initial data sets from real data,
Yes,
not to depend
exactly.
on any only artificially made data or any experimental data. Just we need
Exactly.
to work with real data accumulated over some period of time initially. Okay.
That's true. That's
Great,
true.
great. Thank you so much. It's very rich discussion today with you, and I think the topic is very interesting. And I hope to have questions from the audience who will which watches the video later, the recording. So maybe you can send to you later. So thank you so much, Preethi, for your time today, and thank you everybody for watching. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. And I hope to see you in future webinars. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you, Rania, again, and thank you, audience. Again, you can reach out to us. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
we have a question coming right now. So from Layla, oh, it's
Okay.
cancelled. Did you see it? It's cancelled. She just withdrew the question. I don't know why.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
Layla,
please don't
yes,
hesitate.
feel free to resend the
ask
question
questions.
again.
Yes.
Okay, see you in next
Yes.
webinar. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you again. Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, Rania.
Yes, Preethi, it's very interesting.
Yes.
Thank